Hello and welcome to another Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever video. People have been asking me to make faction tutorials, so here you go. These videos are going to be very simple and very down to earth. If you are interested in the detailed and complicated stuff, please watch the unit comparison charts and the unit composition videos. I can link them in the description of this video or add them as a card. We are going to start with Aeon because this is what I play. And this is what a standard Aeon game looks like. So there's going to be a long passage of nothing, and then the Aeon player gets their hairbrush and the Aeon player wins. Except this doesn't say hairbrush, this says harp rush. Okay, so Aeon font may be a little difficult to read, but harp rush, okay, not hairbrush. And what is a harp rush? Well, a rush is getting something fast, and harps are these guys, right? So Harbinger Mark IV is the long name, and depending on how lazy you are, you may call them Harby or Harp. And this is what they look like. So even if you don't know a single unit in the Aeon military, this is going to be the one unit you want to memorize, because this is the strongest unit, and this is the backbone of any Aeon strategy. Okay? Just to clarify it, we are going to compare two games. In one game, the Aeon player is doing Harp Rush and winning. And in the other case, the Aeon player is getting creative and doing something else. Let's say the Aeon player thinks, okay, the opponent doesn't seem so strong, I want to do something strange, and I just build Blaze tanks, right? T2 tanks. And this is some other strategy, not a Harp Rush. And even if the execution of this some other strategy, the Blaze tank spam, whatever, is going to be good, it is not the right thing. So this is about doing the right thing, not about doing things right, okay? You want to do the right thing, and the right thing is Harp Rush and not some other strategy. Because if you do some other strategy, you are going to lose, usually, right? There are players who are so bad that they cannot counter Blaze spam, for example, but usually if you play against somebody who is about as good as you want to go for Harp Rush because it's the safe way of playing. And just to clarify it, let's say you are on a Harp Rush setup and the opponent does something crazy and you think you can change your plan and go for something else. Then you're usually going to lose too, right? Because you're not getting harps, and harps are your asset, your strongest unit, your everything, pretty much, your reason to exist. So get harps every time. Let's say we introduce some interaction and we are playing against some ugly Symbiont Siren player who is trying to flood the map in mantis bots. Right? So every inch of the map is covered in ugly spiders. What happens? Well, the Aeon player is not going to be able to do standard Harp Rush. The Aeon player will have to modify it in some way. And usually this is going to be like building some Aurora. This is always a part of a Harp Rush. And maybe building a little more Aurora if there are many mantis bots. Possibly also building like some Asylums and Blaze. Maybe going for the high frequency gun upgrade on the ACU, right? And the question is the Aeon player going to be able to like counter the Mantis flood and get back on track and keep doing the Harp Rush? Or is the Siren player capable of knocking the Aeon player like out of his usual course of doing Harp Rush, and the Aeon player is going to continue the game doing something else, right? Let's say the Aeon player forgets about the harps and builds Blaze tanks for the rest of the game because the Siren started by building Mantis bots, right? This is not going to work because the Siren player could get Loyalists, and the Loyalists are going to shred the Blaze tanks, and this is going to be a very soon, very tragic end of the Aeon player. So the Aeon player has to memorize to build harps and get back on track and get into this linear gameplay plan, right? This is what the Aeon player should do. And of course, the evil Siren player is trying to do something else, probably trying to go for some T2-centric snipe. So can be like T2 gunships, can be T2 Corsairs on power generators or the ACU, can be Fire Beetles in a drop, could also be TML, or maybe Masked Jesters, which kinda count as T2, because even though they are T1 units, they have the same cost structure as a T2 unit pretty much. So T2 snipe, right? And the question is the Aeon player going to be able to stop this or not? Well, if the Aeon player is not going to be able to stop this, the game may end right away, and this is game over, right? But if the Aeon player can stop it, maybe by building T2 flak, by having lots of interceptors, having swift winds especially, the T2 combat fighters. And by scouting a lot, by maybe building an ACU HP upgrade or some asylums, well, then the Aeon player can pretty much choose whether like they can go for something else and continue doing something else, maybe like invest into own T2 aggressive air, spam some gunships or whatever, or whether they want to go back to the Harp Rush thing. And my advice is go for the Harp Rush thing, because anything that's not Harp Rush is pretty wonky and pretty risky for Aeon. So just keep doing your Harp Rush, right? This is how it works. And in the end, you're going to win. So let's introduce some more factions. Let's say we have a Seraphim player here who is building Phobos, the hover arty, and who's pushing with the ACU. This is something that Seraphim players do a lot because they have a strong ACU, they have lots of upgrade options, and they all hit the game pretty early. And the Phobo is going to be a very strong support unit, a DPS unit that can deal damage while the ICU tanks. Then, will the Aeon player be able to counter this push or not? Well, if they have lots of Auroras and good micro and good ICU play, well then they're going to be knocked off course for a bit and get back on track and do the Harp Rush, right? What the Aeon player wants to avoid is dying here or like getting led astray from the original strategy. And same for Pillars pretty much. Pillars are T2 UEF tanks, they hunt in groups, they are scary, they are everywhere, they kill Aurora. And usually if you are facing Pillars, you want to build some T1 point defense, you want to wall a little bit, and form as many artificial chokes as you can, and you want to use your Gun ACU and OC as many Pillars as you can without getting swarmed. And this is how you can buy time until your harps are ready. So the Pillars are going to knock you off course for a bit, but you should get back on track and get harps instead of doing something else, right? And same for Loyalists, Cybran T3 bots. So some Cybran players do the same T2 skip the Aeon player does when they are rushing harps, and Loyalists usually hit the battlefield a little earlier than harps, so can be a problem sometimes depending on how well the Cybran player uses their Loyalists, and you want to avoid getting caught off guard by this. So again, you should focus on doing the Harp Rush while interacting with your opponent so that you can safely pull off the Harp Rush. This is Aeon gameplay in a nutshell. So let me summarize again. You are doing Harp Rush, so you are going to be super predictable, right? But the difference is, like Cybran tries to be unpredictable, while Aeon tries to be predictable. It's okay for Aeon to be predictable, because if you always do Harp Rush, well, after a while, you realize every opponent is going to know that you try to do Harp Rush, and they're trying to counter your Harp Rush, right? And while the Cybran player might say, well, this is where I start doing something different, the Aeon player reacts differently. The Aeon player just says, well, yeah, I know I'm predictable, what I need is just a better Harp Rush, right? So they're doing the same strategy, but they work on the execution. And the Aeon player starts predicting what their opponent does to counter the Harp Rush, and they are going to counter exactly what the opponent does, right? So let's say the opponent builds T1 bombers to counter Aurora, and then swarm with the Aeon player with Pillars, and this is how they stop the Harp Rush. Well, after losing against this 30 times, the Aeon player is going to realize, okay, I need interceptors to counter the T1 bombers that kill my Aurora, and maybe I can build less Aurora and micro them better, and this is how I have more eco for interceptors, and the opponent cannot use their air, right? And then I can do my Harp Rush again by bridging the critical T2 stage where the UEF player has Pillars with some point defense walls and gun ACU, right? So this is how it could work. And basically, in the narrative world of Supreme Commander, like in the books, in the campaign and stuff, Aeon people are considered they are high empathy individuals, like high emotional intelligence pretty much. And basically this is not bullshit, because the way this game is designed, the Aeon player automatically learns after a while to watch out for what the opponent does. Because again, the Aeon player is predictable. The Aeon player always goes for Harp Rush in standard games, right? Because this is just their strongest option. And what makes an Aeon game interesting is not what they do, because they always do Harp Rush. What makes it interesting is what their opponent does and what the opponent tries this time to counter their Harp Rush. And of course, the Aeon player's reactions to what the opponent does. Okay, so again, Aeon players do not try to be unpredictable. They try to predict the unpredictable, what the opponent does. And once you realize how much beauty there is in this, you may stop playing Cybern and start playing Aeon. Alright? So good luck, have fun, I hope you learned something.